Welcome everyone to another Minecraft building tutorial. In today's video, we are going to be covering some tips that I have learned from building in Minecraft. Are you ready to take your builds to the next level? Let's get started. Today's video is going to be focused on pillars, but that doesn't mean that you can't use what we do today in other types of builds as well. We are going to start off with a design that is a little simple and work our way up, increasing the detail and complexity of the designs as we go along. Here we have a quartz pillar along with some quartz stairs, and this makes a very nice and simple design that you can use in just about any build. If you replace the quartz blocks with oak logs and stairs, you end up with something a little bit more rustic. Polished basalt and deep slate also work really well together. This design is a little underwhelming. Let's get to something more interesting. With this next design, we are adding a little bit more detail by putting in some trapdoors around the base, some trapdoors right underneath where the stairs are, as well as this barrel here in the middle. While this example is a little short, you can expand it in a couple of different ways. One way is to add the logs underneath, or you could add a stripped spruce log in the middle. But what if you are working with a design where having the stairs just won't fit and you need something a little bit smaller? If you need a design that fits within a one block space, you don't have to settle for just having a single block all the way down. You can break it up by adding in some walls as well as some fences to create a little variation in how wide the pillar is. And you can take it a step further by adding in an end rod between the fences to make it even a little bit smaller. If you need it to be a little bit taller, you can stack the design on top of itself as well. But I think that's enough of these small pillars. Let's get to something a little bit bigger. Here we have a 2x2 pillar, and you can see we've got this nice little cutout that gets repeated in the middle. This is created by using stairs to go around in a single layer, and it adds this nice little point in the center to break up an otherwise solid block. But now we are moving on to something with a little bit more color and a little bit more variation. By using walls along the edge, we are able to create a design that looks a little bit more like an oval shape as opposed to a solid block. But let's expand on this idea a little bit more. By adding walls on all four sides, we can create this nice effect where the block in the center does not get overwhelming. And this allows us to use really bold blocks for different types of colors, like this crying obsidian, or gold blocks, or even diamonds. But we don't have to stop there. If we move the walls to the corners and use full blocks in the center, we end up with this nice square shape that has a little bit of depth to it, as well as variety in the blocks that are used. But I think we could even go a step further. In this version, I've added in some glass panes in the corners, and that does two things. First, it adds a bit of color to the design. And second, the glass helps the walls to be in this flat state, as opposed to the narrow version when the glass panes are not there. Having the glass panes also means that you can use the center block in the middle of the pillar to be able to add another little bit of detail to the design. So here we have some black stone walls, as well as the purple frog light. But I think we can take this even further. If we use something like black stained glass in the corners, that helps to round it out and make it seem like we have a circle as opposed to a square. Adding in the bands of full blocks and walls in the corners also helps to break up the pattern and create a little variety in the overall design. But now let's switch things up and focus on the color for these designs. In this design, we make use of a color gradient, starting with some red nether bricks at the bottom and going up to the black concrete at the top. We also ended up with a very wide base, which necessitated coming up with something that helps to make this slope in as opposed to having it just end in the floor. With the gradient, it's a little hard to tell because of where it's placed right now in this outdoor area and in direct sunlight. But when I came up with this design, it was for an indoor build, and that meant that the upper levels were naturally darker, which smoothed out the gradient overall. And the taller that you make a pillar, especially indoors, the more you have to think about how to light it up. Otherwise, no one is going to see all of the details that you put into it. And that was a problem that I was working with in these next three designs. The first example that we are going to look at is this 3x7 pillar that I came up with that has a circle cut out in the side and these stripped warp stems in the middle, which add a nice cyan highlight to the build. But when I finished building the room, I realized that the top part of it was all covered in darkness and you couldn't see any of the details. So I added these shroom lights here and covered them up with these dark oak trapdoors, which is a little clunky. And so the next time I ran into this issue, I came up with a different solution. Are you able to spot the lights that I used to light up this build? How about if we set it to night? If you guessed that the crying obsidian was the light source, you would be correct. The crying obsidian adds a nice little bit of light to help make the rest of the details in the pillar stand out. Plus, with some shaders added, it looks even better, but I'm getting distracted. Let's look at our final design, which incorporates a lot of the different things that we have looked at so far. Here, you can see that I used some walls in the corner to be able to have this white line that goes all the way down. And instead of having it be the full block size, it's just a nice narrow strip. The walls also help make the corners more rounded as opposed to being a square block. You will also notice that I have these walls that are spaced out, and the cobblestone walls help to add not only a little variation in the depth of the build, but if you look at the center point, I have these glowstones, and that helps to keep the entire build lit up. One other little detail that I like about this build is the use of this plus sign, which is created by using some stairs in just this too high space. And what the stairs do is to keep the area nice and balanced out, and so that way you can have a nice gap here at the top as well as on the sides that is all even. So there we go. We have covered a bunch of different types of pillar designs in this video, and I hope some of them have given you some ideas that you'll be able to use in your own builds to help take it to the next level. But that is where we are going to leave it for today. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a like. If you want to see more, please subscribe. And until next time, see you later.